did you start to look at neurofeedback, and why did you incorporate it into your program?
That's a really good question. About eight to 10 years ago, we actually started with biofeedback, and it was quite the process to get in. And it took about a year or two for one of our therapists to be trained and ready to use biofeedback. We really liked the results, but we've been pretty limited since it's one machine and one therapist. And we heard about neurofeedback when we heard about the cost. We just stuck with biofeedback for all these years, and we started hearing a little bit more talk of neurofeedback. Went to the Yada conference a year ago and heard Diane present on neurofeedback, and it was something we've been thinking more and more about in research in that leading up to that conference. And when she talked, it was just all these, just some really amazing success stories, and I was thinking, man, we really should be looking into neurofeedback. Even if it would do half of what they say it could do, it would be worth the investment. What I was impressed by is when I went up to talk to Diane. It wasn't until then that I found out that she had a company that could come in and train, and they could offer neurofeedback training and equipment and software. Never did she mention that in her training. So her training wasn't a sales thing. I could tell she had the heart for it and really believed in it at that point. And so I appreciate that. And we started working with her. We started researching other programs after that to see, hear from several sources to see if this is something that could really will make a difference. So we talked to other programs. I had a friend that I found led a neurofeedback team at an outpatient clinic also in Utah. And I went and toured his facility, and he just kept saying he also was able to share several case studies of how big a difference it was making in clients' lives. I also saw their equipment that was archaic compared to what Diane had shared. So we got to work and started figuring out how can we pay for it. We actually wrote a grant, and Adobe got a $20,000 Adobe grant, and here we are today with neurofeedback and symmetry neurofeedback.
I appreciate that. It's a good story. Can you tell us a little bit about the results you've seen since starting the program?
Yeah, I can share from my perspective as the executive director of the St. Peter Academy. So first off, a goal that I have as the director, and that is I want to have a connection with each of our 60 to 70 students that we have. And there's from time to time a couple that are more difficult to feel that connection with. And by connection, that we're doing more than just interacting or associating, but I feel a closeness with them. And I have seen in the last few months that we have been implementing neurofeedback services at CNAPU, that there's a difference in several of these. And one in particular, as I ran into him, I interacted with him, just had a discussion with him. Typically the discussion would last no longer than 30 seconds. And after about 5 minutes of he and I visiting and interacting, he said, "I have to hurry and go now, Marty. I'm going to a job interview." And I was floored. I was blown away by the length of our discussion that he and I had. I was amazed that we had had a connection, and I couldn't believe that he was going off to a job interview. And I saw him several hours later, and he approached me and he said, "Marty, would you like to take a picture of me because I got the job?"
Fantastic story. Fantastic story.
Nathan was telling me that he had some of your neurofeedback services before, and something changed with the mapping and the new version of it.
Right. So he was just with the equipment we had before was so limited. You're just guessing what the protocols and what parts of the brain to target. With that symmetry mapping, we're able to target right where we need it. So yeah, he switched over. He's a student that has had more sessions than the others, and yeah, when he hit about that 20 session mark, he noticed big change. I did talk to his therapist, Ethan, about his perspective on what some of those changes were. He was describing like an increased ability to introspect, which you can see that psychotherapy kind of hinges on that. Some of the ability to do that, to look inward. So greater willingness and greater ability to look inward. So even the therapy is now making a greater effect.
More effective. Cool.
It's been fun with this student that we're referring to as he's been receiving this neurofeedback treatment, that we have some staff who haven't been aware, and I've heard them pose the question, what's going on with this student? This is a different student. Even though he's been with us for a couple of years and we've gotten to know him, and so it's been very fun to see the impact that neurofeedback services has on individuals. It really truly is blessing people's lives, and we're seeing it in action right now.
I'm going to ask you how the implementation was, the process of getting up and rolling.
So, another barrier we had to jumping into neurofeedback was thinking that we were going to have to send people to biology classes, and it was going to take a year or two of training to get into it. So we thought it's this time barrier and 1 year. So when we heard that after a 2-day training, we could have a good chunk of our staff able to start using this with our students, that was a big shift for us, a big change. After that 2-day training, what we had, the next phase, we had our staff start practicing with each other. We become familiar with it, and just and we got all the equipment set up and created our neurofeedback room, and then created a calendar system for it. So we can just maximize. We have about 4 therapists that are using it, and they just go to the calendar and they schedule their students for those times, and that helps us to kind of maximize the machine. So it's. I walked in on a session after about 2 months of them practicing. So I went to the training, and then 2 months goes by without me experiencing anything. And I walk in, and one of the therapists explained what they were doing, and it was like a foreign language to me. I had been to the training, and I couldn't believe how she was able to describe what was happening. Clicking on all the different buttons, using the software, was very familiar with it, and I was
2 months.
It was 2 months. Yes. Stephanie was doing that, and I was like, she sounds like she's been doing. I told her, I'm like, it sounds like you've been doing this for 10 years. The way you're describing this, so that was also very reassuring. We were wondering, like, okay, they're saying we do it in 2 days, but we know that like others have had to take a couple of years before they feel like they're ready to actually use it with clients. So yeah,
We're excited and cannot wait to implement these services with additional students at Senior Academy. We're looking forward to it, to see the impact that it can have on people's lives.
Thank you.